Hey guys, it's Bennett. Welcome back to the channel. In front of us today, we have a box of 1990 Donruss, the epitome of the junk wax era, the most worthless of the worthless, the most overprinted of the overprinted. But for anybody around my age, anybody who was, how old would I have been? I was a junior in high school when this set came out. This will bring back a lot of memories. I know just standing here over the box, I'm excited to open it. Even though there's nothing valuable in it, I'm still excited to open it. I hope you are too. I hope you're excited to go down this memory lane with me. And we're going to get into it. 1990 Donruss, like I said, you should recognize the packs immediately. By the way, this box, if you've seen the earlier video of mine when I cleaned out my mother's house, this box was purchased in 1990. I did not go on eBay and buy this just now to make this video. I have owned this box for the last... God, is it 36 years? Am I right? 36 years. I've owned this box for the last 36 years. This box is that old. Anyway, well, obviously the box is that old, but that box has been in my possession for that long. So in here, we're going to have 36 packs. There were puzzle pieces in this set that you can make a Carl Yastrzemski puzzle out of. This is that famous set that has all the errors in it, right? But they were all uncorrected errors. So this is the set where you get the no period after the ink on like Bo Jackson's card, and people list them on eBay for like 10 grand, even though they're worth about 50 cents. Again, errors, this is just a little word of advice. Errors are only valuable if they were corrected. And the print run of the uncorrected error is short enough. Like the Billy Ripken bat handles, the FF, I'm not going to say it here because I like kids to watch this channel. That is a valuable error card, right? In a high grade, because there were still a decent amount of them out there. There were the Randy Johnson cards in the traded set that where the scoreboard is blank behind him, not blank. Those are some of the more valuable ones, right? These, the only thing that's really valuable out of this set, all right, is the ones that have the aqueous test on the back. Now those, I'm going to start to open these because we have a lot of packs to go through. Those are valuable because they were never supposed to be distributed. They made it into packs randomly. There is some numbers, some counts you'll see where it says that that maybe there were only 20 of each produced for each player. I've seen numbers up to 2,000. But even at 2,000, you know, these cards were produced in the millions, right? There were millions of copies, literally like a million copies of each card. The aqueous test, different from these are the puzzle pieces, what they look like. The aqueous test ones, they'll say aqueous test on the back diagonally, and the front will be like a glossy finish. Apparently, it was something that Donruss was testing out that never made it into the product. But if you can find one of those on a star player or on a big player, those have a lot of value in a high grade. So we're going to go through these. There's Dave Winfield, Ken Oberkfell, Dave Magadan, Wade Boggs. These are the Diamond Kings were the inserts. There are some people in here, right? Some rated rookies that are cool to find. And when we come across them, I'll stop. But I'm not going to stop otherwise, because most of these cards, like I said, are worthless. This is more for nostalgia. This is to have some fun, to get a look at a set that maybe you guys haven't seen in a while. There's an instant win, by the way. You can win over 1 million prizes. It was inside the face of the packs, which I'm ripping now. But I'll try to get one off cleanly. And when I do, we'll take a look at it because, you know, maybe we won like a really cool prize or something. This one just doesn't want to come off. Anyway, so here are all our puzzle pieces. Maybe we'll drop me a comment if you'd like to see this puzzle put together. Maybe I'll do that with the kids. There's a Carlton Fisk. There's a Smiley. There are a couple of well-known errors in here. If memory serves, John Smoltz's card, or one of John Smoltz's inserts, has a picture of Tom Glavine on it. There's a reverse Juan Gonzalez. There's a reverse negative where it shows him batting from the wrong side of the plate. Stuff like that. Again, they're not valuable because they were never corrected, right? And again, an uncorrected error means that they printed as many of those as they did the real cards. Maybe not quite as many, but a lot. And again, this just came down to these, as you can tell, really, really cheap paper stock, right? This was about printing as many of these as possible and getting them out onto the market. So they weren't really interested in quality. There's Kurt Ford, Dick Schofield, Steve Sachs. There's Jay Bell. Man, these names. There's O.B. McDowell, one of the great names, period, in baseball history, in sports history, in human history. O.B. I'm assuming that was a family name, but who knows? These packs really are not coming off clean. This may be. I'm going to see if I can get it off of here. We can take a look at it. So this is a Nolan Ryan card. There is an error associated with this one that's a little more hard to come by, where it's 5 Ks on the front and something different on the back. I don't even know if this is the error, but that I know there is an error associated with that Ryan card. There's another puzzle piece. Guys, if you're new to the channel, I'm going to open new stuff. I'll open old stuff. We'll go over, we'll do a bunch of fun stuff. There's an Andy Bennis rated rookie. And if you're interested in that kind of content, please hit the subscribe button. Feel free to come back, check out some of the other videos. Hit the like button if you like the content. Drop me a comment. If you're new here, I would love to hear from you. I respond to every one of the comments I get. We're at 700 and change subscribers as I'm filming this. Really on a race to get to 1,000. I'd love to. There's a Gary Sheffield. Look how massively how miscut that is. There's a checklist. There's also errors with the checklists. I mean, there's errors. This set is just replete with errors. There's a Craig Biggio. There's a King of Kings Ryan. Also horribly miscut. There's the Wizard. There's Brett Saberhagen. There's Keith Miller. There's Bob Guerin. You'll see a lot of guys, obviously, who are now managers in the majors in this set, like a Bob Guerin. Although I don't know if Guerin is managing a team right now. I think he might be, but I'm not sure. There's another puzzle piece. I'll hold on to all those. If I get enough comments that say you guys want to, look at this, flipped. Or Roberto Alomar flipped in the pack. Go figure that. No idea why. Ellis Burks, Eric Anthony, there's Kelly Gruber, Gerald Clark, Gary Templeton. I guess I should be looking at the back for the, there's Mike Scott, one of the most feared pitchers of his day. Carney Lansford. I guess I should be looking at the back, right, for the aqueous test, but let's take a quick scan of these. I didn't see any fronts that would have led me to believe that, there were none of those glossy fronts. And they're exceedingly rare. They are hard to hit. So, opening one box that's been sitting in a closet for 35 years, I'm not anticipating seeing one of them. If we do, it'd be very cool. But again, it's not something I'm expecting to see. There's my puzzle piece. There's Scott Coolbaugh. There's Mark Gardner. He was a good pitcher. Matt Williams. Dave Johnson. There's Barry Bonds. That's cool. Put the Bonds down. We'll put that Bonds separate. There's Benzinger, Harris. There's Kirby Puckett. Dave Gallagher, Chuck Finley. There's McGuire. There's a McGuire All-Star. I know there's some error associated with him too. Now here's the Smoltz, right? But that is John Smoltz. It's like the Smoltz. I don't know if it's an MVP card, if it's Diamond Kings. I can't remember what it is, but there is some Smoltz card where it's a picture of Tommy Glavine, which, to a Met fan like me, I hated both of them equally, so it doesn't really matter to me which one of them they put them on there. I even hated Glavine when he pitched for the Mets. I was a true Met fan. Not like some of my buddies who were like, "Ah, he's a Met now." He was never a Met. Still a Brave. There's Mark Knudsen. There's Tommy Herr on the Diamond Kings. Glenn Davis, Charlie Huff. Charlie Huff, I think, was already I think he was like 59 years old. There's Dave Henderson. Guys, if you're around my age, I'm sure you know these players, right? You know these guys. A lot of you, if you're younger, if you're anywhere near my son's age, even if you're a baseball fan, you're not going to know a lot of these names. But believe me, anybody around 50 years old is going to be like, oh, I know that guy. I know that guy. We knew all these guys, right? We knew their names. There's Sid Bream. There's Bernie. There's got to be an early card for Bernie Williams, right? No major league record. Yeah. So this would have been a rookie card for Bernie Williams, but not the rated rookie because he was an international player, I'm guessing. There's Julio Franco, who was also, this is the MVP version. So this version of John Smoltz has Tom Glavine on it. Julio Franco played well into his 40s. There's Kirby again. And was that? Oh, it was Todd Burns. All right, let's keep going. We are a quarter of the way through the box. Fun stuff. Guys, how is everyone doing? Please drop me a comment and let me know. I really am genuinely interested. I'd like to know how other people are doing in the hobby as well. Rick Dempsey, Gary Sheffield. There's Mike Devereaux, Steve Cummings, Mackie Sasser. There's Nolan again. There's Darren Dalton. Brooke Jacoby, Edwin Nunez, Keith Miller, Bob Guerin, and Chris Carpenter. Not that Chris Carpenter. Although Cardinals had another pitcher, Chris Carpenter. Different guy. And spelled differently. That Chris had no H in his name. Not an error, just the way his parents did it. We got a Kevin Mitchell All-Star on the back that's stuck here. Kevin Mitchell. Famous for his one-hand catch down the left field line. There's Larry McWilliams, Juan Augusto, Jeff Robinson, Craig Biggio. Oop, wrong pile. That's my puzzle pile. What are you guys doing over there? We might have to build that if we get enough comments telling us to. There's an Orion King of Kings. So no error there. There's Ozzie, Bert Saberhagen. You'll start to see there is a repeat in the pattern in some of these packs. There's Chili Davis. And there's John Smoltz, also Smoltz. So it's the MVP one. That's the error. If we come across it, I'll point it out. Also, if we come across some of the other, well-known errors, I'll point them out. I'm not going to go into the nonsense about the missing period after the dot in ink. Just so you know what that is. If you see the leaf ink, see that? See how there's a dot? Depending on what factory, for whatever reason it was printed in, that dot's not always there. And people try to pretend that it's a really rare error. And some people have fallen for it, especially years ago, before some of these, some of the ways to check this stuff out. There's Ruben Sierra was in place. So, unfortunately, some people got scammed, but they are not rare. If you're ever shopping or you see something 1990 Donruss and you see a Bo Jackson, no dot after ink, and they're asking, $100 for it, it's a ripoff. It's a 5-cent card. Don't buy it. There's Walt Terrell. There's Gary Carter. Oh, I love Gary Carter. It was big. There's Fernando. There's Harold Baines, Eric Anthony. There's Carlton Fisk. Pedro Guerrero. Wow. Brings back so many memories. I want to see if I can get one of these packs off clean. If we can look at, I don't think it's going to be this one. I'd love to see what the prizes they were giving away. It's on the front side of the pack, so even ripping this part of it, I'm just curious if we can see. Let's see. What were they giving away back in 1990? First prize, I can't really see. I see $500, a trip to the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's pretty cool. $500 and a trip to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Was that first prize? I don't know. That's what it looks like. All right. I'd take that right now. $500 and a trip to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And then, 1990, $500 is a lot of money. There's Eric Davis, Darryl Strawberry, Dan Plesac. There's Pedro Guerrero again. There's Al. Look at a young Al Leiter. Look at a young Al Leiter. Look at that fresh-faced Al Leiter. How many years have you been pitching? He just went from the Yankees to the Blue Jays before this card was printed. There's Eric Anthony again. And Rafael Ramirez. I'm surprised these packs, I guess they sat in a closet. I don't know. It certainly wasn't that, temperature control. But usually, these things, I've seen these open. I've opened these, certainly, I think, sometime in the last 30-some-odd years. I don't ever remember them sticking like this. And there's also, like, if you could see what's going on my table, there's crap all over the place. Anyway, here we go. More puzzle. I think we might, I don't remember if in the box. Anybody remember if you get the whole puzzle in a box? I really don't. I don't remember. But think about where I was, like with the hobby. There's Eric Davis. That I bought a box of this and then put it on the shelf. Talk about having no idea, like, what the value of some of this stuff was. It's just funny to me. It's funny to me. I don't know. Anyway. All right, let's keep going. There's Bob Welsh. I'd love to run into one of the errors, even if they're not valuable. There's Sandberg. There's Brian Roberts. There's Willie Frazier. Rafael Ramirez. There's Roger McDowell. There's also a big Roger McDowell guy, obviously, he's a Mets fan. 86 Mets, Roger McDowell. There's Mark Langston. There's Tommy Herr. Smithson and Jeff Reed. Come on, Yaz. Don't run away from me. We might be putting you together. This is, by the way, what the completed puzzle looks like once you put it together. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I don't remember, frankly, if I ever did it as a kid. My hunch is I probably did, because why not? It's not like I had internet or anything like that to keep me busy. There's Orel Hershiser, Billy Swift, Kevin Brown, Greg Myers, there's McDowell again, Mike Fields. All right, this is the halfway point of this box. So far, no aqueous tests. So far, none of the really well-known errors. The Bonds, I don't know, I put aside because I just like that picture of Barry. What do you think's going to go on with Bonds, right? Never makes it into the Hall, maybe, probably. But his value, like his card value, I don't know. Like there's some autographs now I'm hearing, like he's in some products again. But he just doesn't, I don't understand why he doesn't have the value. There's Sid Fernandez, wore 50, I think, because he was from Hawaii. If memory serves, there's Jim Abbott, one hand. Lee Mazzilli, there's Bill Buckner. This is Buckner with the Royals. 4 years removed from the ball through his legs. There's Smoke. One of the great nicknames ever, Dave Stewart, Smoke. There's Dennis Eckersley, his teammate. That was a hell of a pitching staff, late 80s, early 90s A's. Anybody remember them? There's Mark Grace. It's got paper all over it, but this at the time, this guy, Ben McDonald, was like the big prospect. This guy was the chase in 90 Donruss. People had books full of Ben McDonald's rated rookies. Never panned out. Never panned out. He was a hard-throwing pitcher. It was supposed to be the next big thing, and he just, as happens in the hobby today, right? Just never panned out. But people chased him. Ben McDonald cards, I remember. Man, that was a card you were looking for. All right, who else we got? Stan Javier. There's Steve Avery. Look at that picture of Steve Avery. That's the best picture they could get of Steve Avery. This was obviously his rated rookies before he pitched for the Braves. There's Oil Can Boyd, so named because he was known to enjoy cans of beer before he played in the dugout, I was told, in the minors, maybe in the majors. There's Marquise Grissom. He was a big player back in the day. There's Jimmy Key, hell of a pitcher. There's Willie. There's Mike Scioscia, George Bell, Wally Joyner. Wally Joyner was a Was a good, solid player for the Angels. Hit for average, had a little bit of pop. Solid defender. Wally Joyner was a big player back in the 90s, back in the late 80s, early 90s. Never hear his name now, that's for sure. Here we go. There's Ron Darling, Roger Clemens. There's Ryan Sandberg, MVP, another checklist. There's the John Smoltz Diamond Kings, Glenn Hoffman. Oh, okay, so here's the error. So it says John Smoltz, MVP, but that's a picture of Tommy Glavine. So that's an error card. Whatever, we'll put that one down. That's pretty cool. There's Howard Johnson. There's Donnie Baseball. So I'm glad we came across that one, because I remember that as an error card as a kid. I remember people talking about that error card. Here's another puzzle piece. And then we go Mickey Tettleton. There's Bobby Bonilla. Bobby. There's Bobby Witt, father of Bobby Witt Jr. There's Jose Canseco. We're getting some new people here. There's Tom Candiotti. There's Tommy Glavine, his base card. There's a Cal Ripken All-Star. Darnell Coles. Mike Stanley. Boy, these names bring back a lot of memories. Charlie O'Brien. Charlie O'Brien, I think he was on the Cubs there, but he was a Met, I remember, for a little while. He was a Met. Yep, for sure. Charlie O'Brien. Okay. We're getting through it. There's Steve Sachs. Candy Maldonado. Great name. There's Joey Bell. Ed Whitson. Kenny Rogers. There's Kelly Mann. Dave Schmidt. Ron Karkovice for the White Sox, right? Yeah, White Sox. He was a White Sox catcher. There's Harold Baines, hell of a player. There's Mike Marshall, Donald August, Mike Stanton, and Randy Reddy. Mike Stanton. Yeah, all right, it was his second year, Stanton. All right, let's keep going. I'd like to see a few other cool cards in here. If we can, and we can find them. That would be cool. Let's see. All right, there's Tom Gordon. Kevin Bass, Chris Sabo. There's something with Sabo, too. I think there's an error. I can't remember. Remember how Sabo, remember the end of his career, essentially? Chris Sabo was having a year for the Reds. I can't remember what year it was. Might have been 90 or 91. The Reds were a big team right around now. The Reds had a really good team with Eric Davis and Sabo and a bunch of other guys on their team. But Sabo had like Super Bowls in his bat. Not cork, they were like Super Bowls. And the turf in Cincy was artificial turf. And I remember he breaks his bat and there's just like Super Bowls bouncing everywhere. It was hysterical. And he was just, he was one of those guys, he just gave like a shrug. Because what was he going to do? It was Dave Parker, Kevin McReynolds, Sean Dunston. Sean Dunston came to the camp where I was in camp as a kid right around this time, maybe a couple of years before this. He had broken his hand and was out for the year. And he came to my camp and gave like a clinic, a fielding clinic. I remember, I guess he was trying to make some extra money on the side. It was Rick Reeves, different time. But I got to meet Sean Dunston, nice guy. There's Ricky Henderson, Greg Swindell. And it's funny, like I'm ripping these now. I'm not even thinking about it. Kids, would buy these a pack at a time, looking for their favorite players, looking to finish off their puzzle maybe. It's just you take it for granted as an adult. And in this day and age, it's Terry Steinbeck, Rick Sutcliffe. It's just, the world is so different, has changed so much. Andre Dawson, Brian Downing. I don't know. There's Nolan. There's Juan Samuel, Atlee Hammaker. You want to test if somebody was a sports fan back in the day, give them a box of cards like this and have them pronounce the names, right? These should flow off their tongue. There should be no stammering and checking and how do you pronounce that guy's name? We would hear these guys' names all the time. We'd see them written in the box scores. We'd hear them said on TV or on the radio. There's Julio Franco, Manny Lee, Tom Foley, Jose Oquendo. Like I know that's Jose Oquendo. I don't have to check. There's Greg Vaughn. There's a Greg Vaughn rated rookie. Look at that picture. Pretty cool. Jeff Hansen, Kelly Mann. There's a Bo Jackson MVP. That's pretty cool. We like Bo. Put that aside. Like a Bo Jackson MVP. It's a pretty cool card. Oh, there's Dion. That should be a Dion rookie, right? Or no? Oh, 89 would have been the rookie. So that's his second year. We'll put Dion aside. That's Joey Cora. Wow, young Joey Cora. There's Steve Balboni. Benito Santiago. Was a big player back then. There's Ron Kittle. The Santiago, I think they're the Santiago brothers, right? I believe. Sort of like the Molinas. Am I right about that? Did Benito Santiago have a brother in the majors? I think he did. And I think they were playing at the same time. I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken. There's Paul Sorrento. There's Ryan Sandberg. There is, so this, what is this? Just the puzzle card, right? This was the whole, yeah. So that's what the puzzle looked like complete. I like that, though. We'll put that aside. Here we go. David Cohn, Jesse Orosco, also pitched well into his 40s. Kenny Rogers. Yeah, we had some older players right in this era, right? Julio Franco, Charlie Huff, Jesse Orosco. There were a few guys who like really playing. I mean, this is Pete Rose was a just a manager by 90. He was a player manager, I think, in like 88 or 89, but he might have just been managing. Well, not just managing. We know what else he was doing, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to speak ill of the dead. He's gone. He'll be in the hall soon where he belongs, but yeah, we all know what he did. Come on, let's see what else we got in here. Let's pull one more cool card. There's Mike Maddox. That was Greg's brother. I don't think they ever played on the same team, but I do remember them pitching against each other from time to time. Mike had nowhere near the career, obviously, that Greg had. He had nowhere near the stuff that Greg had. There's John Wetland, Mike Scott, Carney Lansford. Like, I feel like we saw this pack before. I feel like this is a repeat of a pack. Brian Harper, Ron Jones, Chuck Carey, Ron Oster. Everybody remember Ron Oster? There's Lance Parrish, Spike Owen. Great names these guys had. And on the back, on the next one, I think they give you like their full name. They gave you like their first, middle, and last name, and I think they gave you their nickname if they had a nickname. Let's see. So, William Will Nuschler Clark Jr. Nuschler. How about that for a middle name? Where the hell does that middle name come from? Nuschler. Interesting. So interesting. Nuschler. Alan Trammell. What was your middle name? Stewart. So not their nickname. I guess if it was like shortened, like Will for William. But it wouldn't be like, you wouldn't see like Will the Thrill. I guess they didn't put that down. All right, we got a few more packs to go. Guys, I know this is a long video, but, you know, if you're like me, this is one of those videos, I hope you feel the same way. Like, I'll sit down on my couch, and I'll just be looking to sort of decompress from a day or a week. And I want somebody talking baseball. And I want somebody, you know, talking about the baseball I remember as a kid. There's Cal Ripken. So Calvin, by the way, is his full name. And, you know, and I just kind of, it's in the background, and I'm listening to it. There's Eric Davis. I don't know. That's how I am with videos like this and rips like this. Because so Goose Gossage, right? So he was Richard Goose Michael Gossage. So I guess they do put the nickname, although Goose was how he was known, right? That's what he was in box scores as. He was in box scores as Goose Gossage. I don't think I ever saw, what was his name? Richard? Richard? Is that right? He was Richard Goose Gossage. I don't think I ever saw Richard Gossage written anywhere. In fact, I'm trying to think back to his rookie card. If it said Richard. Usually the rookie cards would, but I don't even remember that saying Richard. Anyway, so long story short, I hope you're enjoying this. I hope you hit the like button. I hope you hit the subscribe button to subscribe to the channel, and I hope you drop me a comment. It's the last time I'm going to say it. So hit the buttons before it gets too late and the buttons disappear, and then you're looking around for the buttons, And then you call out to your wife, hey, honey, what'd you do with the buttons? And she's going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? All right, that's it. We're going back to therapy. And you don't need that. There's Dale Murphy, Rob Deere. Somebody behind Rob Deere. Doesn't really matter. Dean Palmer. Who else? Kirby Puckett again. I feel like we've seen like 33 Pucketts. And only like one Bonds, one Bo Jackson, right? There's Chet Lemon. What's Chet's real name? Chester? Yep. Chester Chet Earl Lemon. Look at that. Chester Lemon. I like it. I like it. Chester's like a name I would give to a dog. I don't know if I would name like a kid Chester anymore. And that's no offense to the Chesters of the world. You know, we had a president, right? Chester A. Arthur was a president of ours. So, you know, it's a distinguished name. There's Andy Van Slyke. Was a hell of an outfielder, wasn't he? See, that's a guy who just disappears into sort of the mist of baseball. There's Rafael Palmeiro. I did not do steroids. Pointing his finger at Congress. Yeah, Rafi did something. Pat Combs. There's Brett Butler. His kid, I think, is in the minors, Palmeiro. At least he was a couple of years back. He was in. I saw him play, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I saw him play in A-ball in Coney Island against the Yankees single A team. And that was right after that happened. So maybe it was a long time ago now. Eric Davis, Howard Johnson. So I don't know if I'm guessing he never made it. There's Glenn Wilson. Who's behind Glenn Wilson? Nobody. George Brett. There's George Brett. First time we're seeing him. Yeah, this set was, 729 cards, I think. I might be making that number up, but it was big. Huge set. Dale Murphy, one of the great baseball players of his era, and he's never spoken about that way. Back-to-back MVPs for Dale Murphy in 82 and 83. And go look at what his line was, his stats were in those back-to-back MVP years. I mean, he was an animal. He was one of the most feared hitters in baseball. He really was, solid defensively, and you just never talk about him like that. Back-to-back MVPs. And you never hear Dale Murphy's name talked about that way. I don't know if it was a longevity thing, if he just didn't do it for long enough, or because he was in Atlanta, which at the time, certainly much smaller market. I don't know. I don't know the reason, but Dale Murphy's one of those guys that, you know, just never, ever gets talked about in the same vein as, you know, you think about anybody else who's won 2 MVPs, right? You think about the way that they're discussed in baseball history. Dale Murphy's just never in that conversation. El Presidente, one of the great nicknames ever. There's Willie McGee, who, right? Did Willie McGee get faked out in the World Series the year after this? Right? Am I making that up? He was playing for the Braves. Doesn't he get deked at second base in that great Smoltz, who was pitching for the Twins? Jack Morris. There was a Jack Morris Smoltz game that went 10 innings. Twins win 1-0. Do you remember? Anybody remember this? Willie McGee gets deked at second base. Am I remembering that right? On a double? Anyway, doesn't score, one of the fastest guys in baseball. Braves don't win that World Series because of it. There's Oral. And the last card is Kelly Gruber. Kelly Gruber for the Toronto Blue Jays. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for hanging in there through a long break. That was 1990 Donruss. These are some of the highlights, I guess you could say. There's the Smoltz-Glavine era. There's a Bonds. And we got a lot of puzzle pieces. We might have enough to put the entire puzzle together. Please drop me a comment. Let me know if anybody wants to see this puzzle put together. Kids, if you're watching, Jack, Dilly, if you want to put this puzzle together, let me know. And that's it, guys. I'll be back soon with something else. Probably something a little more modern. But until then, take it easy. I hope the hobby's good to you, and I'll catch you in the next video.